Good evening, everybody. How are we doing? Hello?
Forgot to unmute my mic.
You forgot to unmute your mic.
Right.
Brilliant. 2 seconds. We seem to have an issue with my camera going on here. Hold on. I don't know what's going on there. My apologies, everybody.
I've done a big energetic response to your question. It's like, hello, good evening.
I did nothing.
Like, why is
Hello,
no one
Cleveland.
responding to me?
Hello, Cleveland.
Brilliant. Oh, I seem to have lost Google Hangouts for some reason. Let's just... oh, there we go. We're back. There we go. Apologies for that, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, just a little technical glitch there. So how are we all? Everybody, if you want to introduce yourselves. We'll start with somebody. Let's start with Matt.
Yeah, I've got him.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm the guest engineer today. Glad to be here, and I had a great time mixing this track as I always do. And so I hail out of Fort Collins, Colorado. I have a little home studio, as you see behind me. It's been a long time building this over many years. So anyhow, yeah, glad to be on, and maybe I'll pass it over to Frank now.
Yeah,
Thanks,
cheers,
Matt.
Great to have you on. And yeah, I've already said I like the look of your studio. And I might ask you some questions about it later.
Right on.
But yeah, I'm one of the regulars, I guess you can call us. My name's Frank. Mixing engineer, and working out of my home studio. And yeah, had a good time mixing the track, and looking forward to hearing everyone's today. On to Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Kamery. I'm from Red Oxide Studios, Buffalo, New York. And sometimes I mix out of hotel rooms where I'm at today. Traveling. But a great song to mix. It was actually good to get back into the rock and metal genres because we've been doing some pop and other genres up until now. So something that was a little bit more, I think, in my veins. But it was a great track, and also welcome to Matt as the guest engineer this week.
Yeah, man. And let's introduce the star of the show. John, are you there? You seem to be muted.
I'm here.
Hey, man. So this is John, everybody, from the band Monstradamus. How are we doing?
I'm doing good. I'm the singer, songwriter, bass player from Monstradamus in Denver, Colorado.
Nice. Welcome aboard.
I had no idea they were in Denver. How do I not know this? I'm like an hour from there. So.
Oh, good. Come see our show. We're playing Larimer Lounge in downtown Denver on January 31st.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, if you're in the area, come see us.
There you go.
The last show we played was Prog Fest, which is probably the largest prog rock festival that we have in Colorado, and that was before COVID, of course.
Yeah. I forgot to say where I'm from. Well, me and Mark are in Kent, England, so it's a little bit far for us, unfortunately. The gig.
Yeah, it's a little bit past our remit. Especially with COVID, we're not allowed to travel anywhere at the minute, are we? So it's like banned from everywhere. But yeah, so welcome everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody for coming on and joining and being part of this project yet again, and for putting in all the hard hours that you have done. Just a little bit about me. I'm Mark from Marler Audio. I'm the host of the show. So I'm from Dover in Kent. Obviously have my own online mixing and mastering service, and part of this whole process of Mix Off Monday is we ask a variety of engineers, guests and otherwise. We've got a bit of a collective going on, and we ask artists to come and give us their materials so that we can mix and master it for them and hopefully make them very happy. And then we bring the artists on the show, we interview the artists, talk all about them and where they're from, where people can find them. We then present the artists with their tracks, and then the artist gets to now, as it were, vote on or give us a score as per the track, and then choose their favourite artist or their favourite mix producer at the end of it, with the idea of hopefully going forward and working together. We do have a link up with XRP Radio on a show called Not Your Usual Beat, and the idea being is that eventually, once we've finish this show and the mix is ready, we will then get that presented on that live show to be aired on the local radio show as well. possibly an interview. We're not sure how that's going to pan out yet. We're still in negotiations and talking about that. But yeah, it will definitely get played either way. So yeah, that's kind of it, really. So over to you, John. Let's talk a little bit about yourself. Let's talk about Monstradamus and sort of what the history is, as it were, as the band. Like, how did you start, as it were?
Okay. So there's a guitar player I met when I was looking for one for my other band, Captivate. And the band itself, we got some airplay. We were, a traditional rock punk type of, band. And so I met this guitar player, Giovanni, and he just blew me away. I mean, just incredible, disciple of Satriani type of guitar player, could shred like anything. And so I thought, he's kind of out of place in this type of band. Let's start up a new project and try out some prog rock, because I'm a, old fan of prog rock, like, Rush and Yes and Genesis and ELP and King Crimson and all the old 70s basic prog rock, and of course Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and all the great British bands, right? But in any case, so yeah, we decided, let's take our influences and really develop those into something of a prog rock type of thing. And we found a guy who was Neil Peart's counterpart in a Rush cover band. So
nice.
So he's a fantastic drummer, and so now we're a trio. We'd like to add a fourth member that could probably double on keyboards or rhythm guitar or something of that nature, and with vocals to build out the sound. So it's live on YouTube here. If you if anybody's out there, give us a holler, and we'll get you for an audition and have us join the great Monstradamus. So
yeah, if you've got a direct email address or something that you wish people to contact you with, or unless it's just the webpage that the web link.
Just Monstradamus.com. We're also on Facebook /Monstradamus Band. And basically, people ask, well, how do you spell that? Well, it's Nostradamus without the N-O-S. It's M-O-N instead, so Monstradamus. It's pretty simple when you explain it like that. But at our next show, by the way, we will give free beers to anybody who can spell Monstradamus.
Frank, we've got to get over there, man.
Or name one of our songs.
We've definitely got to go over there. That's like double the amount of free beer there, Frank. Let's go.
We'll cover the cost of the flight.
Yeah, exactly, right. So yeah, I mean, in regards to that, everybody, obviously, if you're interested in that kind of thing, and you want to check out more of the band themselves, the links are in the description below. I think you've got a couple more links that you're going to send, or you've sent me, John, and I haven't had a chance to put them up yet, but they will be there post show, I promise. Yeah, they're all in there down below to go and check it all out and hook up with them. Cool. So yeah, that kind of covers a lot of stuff. So what about the song Further to Oblivion? So what was kind of your influences for that track, or your vision for that track, as it were?
So that track has not been commercially released yet. That is on our forthcoming album. And you can of course get our debut album on all the streaming services. It's on even Spotify if you want to hear it there. But the new one, I would say, is a real ambitious type of album where we took the very concept of what is Monstradamus and fleshed him into a character, and then created a whole story around him. So there's a five song epic that this falls in the middle of.
Nice.
And so it's about 25 minutes or so. So yeah, that's traditional prog rock right there.
Without a doubt, it's very prog.
So we wanted to really hone in on that. I don't know if I'll ever do another concept like that in the future, but As far as the writing goes, not with this particular song, but for a lot of the songs, I have a friend in Arizona, used to be a teacher, taught Pro Tools and digital music and everything involving digital media back there in Phoenix. But I had a friend who was a coworker, a teacher also, that has incredible artistic talent. I mean, not only is he an artist that has galleries and incredible work, and he designed our album cover for our first album.
The album cover's wicked, by the way.
Yeah,
Sorry to interject, but that is
it's a great surrealistic Dali-esque type of image. But he also did a lot of the lyrics for some of the songs, and he's quite the poet. We have a 11-minute song on our first album called "The Voyage of the Genghis Green," and it's a tale of a old ship during the Crusades, and it has a whole story plot behind it.
Yeah, nice.
So that was kind of fun to work with him, and he also contributed lyrics to this album, and this album will be called Premonition. So that's going in the lines of course, Nostradamus.
Yep.
And so he gave us some lyrics for this album as well, and they're very intricate, very difficult to sing, I'll say right now. But worked real well in the conceptual thing that we saw for Monstradamus.
Yeah. No.
So yeah, we're real excited about this album. It's definitely a step forward in the chemistry of the band as well. First album, I felt, there was the prog elements, but you had still a little bit of the songwriting I did for Captivate. I wrote most of the material, but some of those songs could have been Captivate songs, and those are more like pop punk, rock type of stuff.
Yep.
So here, though, we've kind of forged our sound, I think, with the second album, and it's got a lot of it's a lot heavier album, as you hear from this track. Which and you were asking me, well, what is Further to Oblivion? And it was kind of my feeling of 2020 overall. But if you read into the lyrics, it's it really delves into the psyche of how specifically our country, but probably in the UK too. The disparity between all our political parties and ways of thinking, and why can't we all just get along type of thing. But
too many opinions, right? Too many egos, too many opinions. It's just like, it's
really from the viewpoint of Nostradamus or Monstradamus, in that well, how is this going to affect the future? Well, we're basically heading further to oblivion. So if we keep on this track, and that was kind of the insight to that song.
Wow, yeah, nice. So okay, so in regards to like the album release, like when are you? How far away from that are you? Like sort of thing, like are you?
Honestly, I think we have everything recorded now. I think we're at the point now where we're nitpicking, and after hearing the mixes, I kind of feel we should probably go back and record parts of the drums, because they haven't been coming through in the mix very well. What we do is, we used to record professionally in the studio, but then the drummer seems to have access to a lot of gear. So he really has a great setup now for recording drums. So we're doing it all now at the drummer's house.
It's interesting you say about the drums, and obviously we'll get into this more later on, but from my perspective, and I don't know how the other guys feel, they might say something different, but for me it felt more like the guitars were a little bit like, the trouble I find with recording, like you get a sound that sounds great in the room, and then it's only afterwards when you try and EQ it and mix it that you find that it's not quite right. So similar kind of aspect in terms of where you're thinking it might be the drums that are not cutting through. For me personally, I found it was more the guitars were harder to fit in, and then because they take up so much space sonically, they're taking a lot away from the drums and the bass and stuff. So
Right.
if it was me and I was working with you on it, I would potentially go and retrack the guitars first, which may be easier in the first instance anyway, to get them to fit around the drums and the bass a bit better sonically. But that's my opinion on it. Once again, everyone else is going to have their own opinions, and they'll chime in hopefully with their thoughts and processes on it. But yeah, it's one of them. It's always only when you get to the mix phase that you find that something might not be quite sitting right or working right, and you might need to then once again go and readdress and do retrackings. But that's what revisions
No,
are all
but
about.
yeah, absolutely. If you guys hear anything that you think we should retrack, let me know. I felt though I mean, I did a lot of the recording of the guitars. They're it's a JCM Marshall tube amp, has a real warm sound. He had just changed out the tubes in it, and
Yep.
it just sounded so clear. We had a Royer and a SM58 or SM57.
Yep.
I think on either side of the amp, and recorded on 2 tracks. I don't know if I mixed it down before I sent it to you, or you had 2 guitar tracks. I don't
Yeah, so
remember.
we had a left channel and a right channel, I think, is what we
So
had.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the left and the right were 2 different mics,
Oh, okay,
just
cool.
to give you a variety of sound there. But yeah, no, I checked for clipping. I made sure the performance was good.
Yep.
It's just the drums for me. Listening back, the highs, everything like cymbals, hi-hats, that just it wasn't cutting through very well. And I know we had a problem with the ride cymbal as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bleed that you get from that, I read a article that Dave Grohl said basically that he puts pads on his drums and will just do the whole performance over again, except now you're getting just the cymbals, right?
Yeah, so that they do that kind of tracking. So I have seen that on some of their documentaries where Taylor Hawkins will just go in and play the beat, and then Dave will come in and play just the cymbals post the drums being recorded, which is an interesting concept of doing things.
Yeah, we're thinking about doing that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you say about the cymbals, and I will talk more about this in a minute. But Frank, I'm going to say Frank threw me under the bus here, ladies and gents. Right, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, right? You know what I mean? Like, so I've done about 6 different mixes on my version, and I kept playing them to Frank as a reference, just to double check, just to get a little bit of a second pair of ears on it. And he kept telling me my cymbals were too bright and too loud, so I've turned them right down, and it's ended up having the adverse effect. So
That's
yeah,
the funny thing about not getting like feedback directly from the band, like which is normal.
Yeah.
To go, hey, what do you think? I'm like, I want this album. And I'm like, okay, now we're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then now you can start stylizing it a little bit. But we didn't have those rounds of feedback to kind of get in that direction. It was kind of like you read the notes and then you kind of go for it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And like I say, that's the point of this. It's kind of a litmus test, isn't it, for the artist? Like, it'd be no different if you was to go to a studio and pay thousands of dollars or thousands of pounds to do a session with someone that you've been referred to. And that's all well and good, but you don't always get the result you want. And that's what's nice about this is you get 4 options here for free. And hopefully the blind litmus test finds you someone that gets quite close to what you want in your mind's eye. And then you know that then going forward, if you wanted to work with them further, you're going to potentially get the product you want. That's the whole point of this, I suppose, in that regard. Like, but yeah, it's hard. It is hard when you don't have the artist and you don't have the feedback, and you've got a brief.
And you've got someone telling you to do the wrong thing.
Yes, Frank. Yes, Frank.
Keep up his winning streak. So
yeah.
I just like to throw spanners around.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A whole bag of them. Thanks. Cool. Okay. Have you guys got any questions for John? Or has John got any other questions you'd like to put towards the guys? Or
I did have some questions, but you answered them all really.
Oh.
I was curious about a second album, but you've answered that one, and the sort of change of style to this track compared to your last album. But it's all been answered, so I'm out.
Yeah, that's payback, Frank.
That's the most he can do to you.
Anybody else?
I'm kind of in the same boat. I was kind of curious to hear about the band's lineup and where they came from and what's going on with them. And you hit all that stuff, so I don't have anything further.
Oh man, I've killed the show already.
Mine were mostly in regards to recording questions of how you tracked it, but I think you gave me more information than I had before, and it's actually you guys did supply some mix notes, which is more than we've had in some of the previous ones.
Yep.
So it actually gave us a little bit of a starting board. Whether that maybe helped or threw some people into the wrong direction or not, we'll see.
Yeah. Cool. John, have you got any? Cool.
Yeah, so I just tried to leave it open-ended so you guys would have your own interpretations of how you wanted to approach this, because I'd like to leave a lot of the arrangement and to the engineer, who in his heart is also a producer, I know. So
Yeah.
they have a view kind of how things should sound. And I kind of wanted to compare that, just like we're supposed to do in what the band is thinking about. So
Yeah.
so how that came across, it was different for everyone. It was definitely 4 different mixes that I was very surprised to hear. I don't know. I guess everybody here has heard everybody's mixes.
Yeah. We've all had a listen.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing about this show, is that it really does. It is an eye opener in terms of how different everybody perceives a track. Although it's still the same track and it's very similar, and maybe the general public may not necessarily pick up on it. I mean, my wife doesn't. So yeah, I'm like, how can you not hear that? It's so different,
Yeah.
But
No, but I
each
think
their own.
that they're different enough where, I mean, we've all watched those videos where, some producer, they'll go over to a piece of gear and move a knob just slightly, and they're like, can't you hear this amazing difference? I'm like, no.
No,
And we're these, like, you hear the difference between all 4 of these mixes for sure.
yeah,
So
without a
it's,
doubt. They're starkly different, without a doubt.
Yeah, I think it was useful having the mix notes. Like you say, it's the kind of first time, but I think it's useful that you left it open-ended as well to get, because if you write mix notes where they're too sort of concise,
Right.
you want everything, you would have got like 4
Of the same mix.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes as well, sometimes don't know where a track could go, and that a particular engineer could take it in that direction, and you're like, oh, that works. Or,
Let me give you guys an example of this, where on our first album, it was originally mixed by a gentleman named Ed Lucas, and he worked with a guy named Mike McKinley, I think, who I believe is a keyboard player in Joe Satriani's live band. And so he was, right off the bat, a great engineer. And, he heard our stuff and he's like, wow, I would love to work with you guys. And so he did more than just mixing, I would say. He stepped in and arranged things to where, quantizing, and of course, and adding keyboard parts and sound effects, and he added so much, even a few guitar parts to layer it. And what we came back with was just astonishing.
Yeah.
For example, when you hear Priests and Politicians, that was just a song, but all the additional layering of keyboards and sound effects and all that stuff off that first album, yeah, he did all that. And The Magician, all the keyboard parts on that, just phenomenal what he did.
Yeah.
And that's rare. That's kind of rare to have that level of a combination of like an engineer and a producer who kind of hears where, after I describe, what the song's about and such, that they put their vision in there. We have a little give and take, and then it ends up with this product that you you couldn't get any better. It's just
beats your
fantastic what you did.
expectations, as it were.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been known to all put our own elements in like that. I think with this track, it's such a defined song. It's
Right.
kind of hard to see where the space is for that. But I mean, once again, each one will describe their own version of events in that regard.
Did we want to play the track and then kind of make some comments?
Yeah, so I'll play each track individually. So obviously,
Okay.
like I say, I'm going to go first. I'll play that in a second, and then we'll deep dive into it, and we'll talk about like my thought processes in that. People will ask questions about it. People will pick holes in it, and also offer positive criticism or whatever. And that's the idea. And then we do that for each individual one, and then like I say, at the end we come to a resolution of a winner, as it were. The boat is on order. But because of COVID, it's going to take the next lifetime, I think, to be built. So apologies for that. So yeah, okay, cool. So let's stop beating about the bush. Let's actually listen to the track. So I'm going to play my one first, and I'm blaming Frank. So apologies. If you guys wouldn't mind muting, and we'll have a listen and then cut back in a second.
All right.
All right. Rock on.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, nice one. I think you're too harsh on yourself sometimes.
Someone's got to be, right? Do you know what I mean? It's the only way I improve anyway, I find. So it wasn't a negative. So apologies if people think I'm being down on oneself. It's not. I'm just I'm a perfectionist, like we all are, and yeah, I like to try and do the best I can on everything I do. So, still, Frank threw me under a bus. Just wanted to remind everyone.
Yeah. So would you say you struggled with this one, then, Mark, compared to
I
others?
did, and this is no reflection on the recordings or anything else. But I did find sonically everything was really hard to mash together. Now, bear in mind, like I suppose more my genre. I mean, I listen to rock a lot. Like I'm not a full on prog head or anything, or a full on metal head. But I do listen to it and I do love it. I like everything right up to Slipknot and in between all of that. You know, so I do listen to a lot of it. But having mixing it, it's not really the sort of thing that I would normally mix. And I think mostly because like where I live, down here in the southeast, there's a lot of metal bands and a lot of rock bands, and they have their favoured producers. So it's really hard to break into that scene and get someone to actually give you an opportunity to mix such a thing. So for me, this is my first real kind of foray into it, as it were. Um, so yeah, I found it a lot more difficult and a lot more challenging than I thought I was going to. I would say my sort of genre is more like in terms of mixing anyway, is more kind of folk, more kind of pop, sort of folk rock kind of thing, singer songwriting stuff, I suppose. So yeah, I did struggle. I found it quite difficult to get it to sit right. And like I say, I did about I'd say 6 or 7 mixes and masters. Um, and not one of them was like there was always something that was wrong with it. Even on this one, like I think this is the closest I've got to it. I'm happy with it. I think once again in the mastering process, I might have over compressed it. It sounds a little bit lacking dynamically, but that's an easy fix in that regard. But like overall, I think in terms of everything having its space and sitting, other than maybe the snare was louder before. So I think I did a little bit of a dynamic EQ on it on the mastering phase, and it kind of took the life out of it a little bit. And the cymbals, having the brightness that they had, I think I'm fairly happy with how this is now come together and glued together in that regard. So like I say, apart from a few little tweaks here or there, I'm sort of I'm as happy as I can get with it at this stage. I think, considering it's my first foray into it. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought it was good. I think, like you say, that I mean, I only heard 2 of your mixes, I think.
Yeah, I think I only showed 2 because the other ones were like I went downstairs. My process is I will mix it on some Avatones first, then I'll move out to my T7 Adams, and then I move out to my A77Xs. Once that's done and I've got the master, I then bounce it to an MP3. I then play it through my little JBL speaker. I then go downstairs to my kitchen where I've got a couple of absolute zeros through a Yamaha system and play it on that. And that one seems to be the one that every mix I do, if something's wrong with it, it will show up on them speakers. And if I can get it to translate to them speakers in the kitchen, then I know I'm pretty close, and it will then translate on everything. So yeah, the first couple of mixes when I went downstairs, like almost blew the cones out of the system, where it was just like so bass heavy, and I was like, oh, okay, let's go back to the drawing board then. And also overly reverberant, like. So I don't know. I've moved my speakers around recently because I only had one mono Avatone on, so I was using that to mix in mono, and I kind of felt like my stereo imaging wasn't quite right, so I bought another one, put that in its place, went and used SonarWorks, but something's off with the retweak in the room because my bass, my low end stuff is really not working very well at the moment.
Sorry, is this the first time you've mixed with that setup, with that new setup?
It's not the first time, but I noticed it last time. So on the last mix off, I found I was struggling with the low end, and there was just weird issues. But I just put it down to maybe I'm just getting used to the new Avatone setup and things like that. But once again, it happened this time, so that's why. Like normally, I'd probably maybe do 3 to 4 mixes, genuinely. Unless it's like super easy, silky smooth, and everything comes out great first hit. On average, it's about 3 to 4 mixes before I get to a point where I'm like, okay, this is as close to a final mix as I'm gonna get, without the client liaison bit. So yeah, it's taking longer and more mixes for me to get there. Bear in mind as well, I've got a lot of stuff going on in my personal life at the moment, so I'm juggling. So that might have an element to it, an effect on it maybe. None of this
Yeah.
is excuses, by the way. I'm just sort of like saying how it is for me at the moment. But yeah,
No, I mean when you go up to your studio and there's other things on your mind, it's
yeah.
definitely can be tricky.
Yeah, without a doubt. But like I enjoyed it. I love this track, and it very much reminds me of kind of White Limo. So I was using that as a method of reference. Obviously, they're two very different tracks, similar but two very different tracks, and sonically two very different tracks. So you can only use it so much as a reference point in terms of trying to get that clarity out of it. But yeah, so and a last minute addition, which I think really helped for me on this track, was I don't know. It just felt like there was something missing, like with the guitars. Like I say, for me, the guitars were the biggest problem to get in the mix and to get the vocals to sit right with them and the bass to sit right with them, and because it just took up so much sonic range, and you either had too much sonic range or too little sonic range, and it was kind of like for me, I kind of feel like it would have been better for me to have a DI, so I could have then reamped using various software bits to try and find something that fitted in the mix a bit better, personally. Like they'd sound great on their own, like soloed. That amp sounds monstrous, right? It sounds absolutely phenomenal. But in the mix, it just kind of felt like it was struggling. It was just fighting constantly, no matter where I put it. But then I got it to a certain point where I found it was a happy medium. But then I felt like there was a space that was kind of missing in the lower mids and in the slightly upper mids. So I went and recorded a rhythm guitar part. It's really low in the mix, really panned wide, and it's not doing the same rhythm at all. It's more kind of like syncopated all the way through it, but it's following the chord structure. And I found that just made it go, and that was it. I was like, okay, that was the missing bit that helped glue it all together, and then it kind of just did that. But like I say, you probably wouldn't notice it unless you're really listening, but it did kind of just give it this wash almost that just filled in that space sonically and then just made everything just kind of sit, as it were. But so yeah, it's kind of
That's what I heard.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did hear that.
Right.
I said, wait, we didn't record that. What is that?
yeah.
I was listening in on the studio monitors, and yeah, I was like, "There's something in the background. Is that a keyboard?" I'm trying to think of what it was.
Yeah, no, it's just me
But
on a guitar. I mean, the other thing
okay.
with that is once again, I don't think I got the right sound for it personally. It was like a last minute addition, literally on Saturday night before I sent you the track. So I literally just got a sound up on the katana there, put a mic in front of it, and then just tracked it. So I think really, using my own advice, I should have DI'd it so I could have then gone and tweaked it, but it was one of them. It was like I had half an hour to try and get some idea in, and it was just felt for me like that was what was missing. The other thing I did as well was I inverted the chord structure in the choruses. So like where you're doing sort of power chords and bar chords, I'm going into the open E, open A sus, G, and then open B, the B sus up on the neck there. So yeah, it kind of then just kind of added this extra, and I found that helped the harmonies and the vocals kind of then just have this bigger, richer harmonic texture in the choruses. For me, anyway, personally. Once again, whether rightly or wrongly, but that was the choice I made, and Frank threw me under a bus. I just want to reiterate
Yeah, it seemed,
that.
that was cool to add extra guitars. I like that. I was kind of hoping for another guitar track to kind of Lego piece into the whole, sonic space there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, for me, like, I think the guitars needed double tracking for sure. And I was
Right.
going to attempt to do it. But I mean, I'm more of a rhythm guitarist. I'm not lead guitarist. And like I say, I'm more of a folk rock guy. So to double track the virtuosity of what's being played there was almost impossible. I was like, nah, this ain't happening. I'm just going to do a rhythm section and just keep it real subtle in the background. And that's kind of how it panned out, really. So, yeah. But, yeah. Any other questions? No. Okay, so John, I'm going to ask you for your score on that. What do you reckon to the scoring in terms of that track?
I think what I need to do before I score something is kind of give my reasoning,
Of course.
because, yeah, I so I spoke to the band. I actually did get some comments from the drummer as we were on this on the stream. So, but his are mainly, all about the drums.
Yeah.
So,
All about me. It's all about me.
Go figure.
and obviously the guitar player's concerned about his guitar, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about everything. But here we go. Here's what I thought. I just heard overall a lot of reverb on this track. And
Okay.
I couldn't define where it was coming from. It just felt not like in your face, like how it felt. Just everything was spread out, very distant, but kind of in a big hall. So, which is kind of what reverb does. We talked about the cymbals. Couldn't hear those. I thought the main vocal needed less distortion.
Yep.
Less of the megaphone sound, and more of clarity to it.
Yep.
I gave you guys like 2 vocal parts just so you might be able to use those. Maybe make one of them with a with that megaphone sound, and the other one maybe with some delay, or however you wanted to play with that.
Yeah.
The solo needed to come up a little bit. I couldn't hear the bass at all. It was very muddy.
Okay.
So for me, this was a 7 out of 10.
Which is fair. Yeah, that's a fair score.
Overall, it was a good attempt, but there was just a lot of things unrefined. I couldn't hear a lot of parts in there, perhaps because of the reverb. I mean, I can't define where that was.
Yeah,
Can
see,
I
I think that might have been on those guitar parts that I recorded. I think there was a
Okay.
bit of reverb on the amp thing, which I missed, like I say. But regardless, like I'm quite happy with the 7 out of 10, and I'm really grateful for the feedback. To be honest with you, John, like it's insightful, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
I was going to say on the reverb, but I was going to bring that up actually. Like, I thought it was quite a bit of reverb for you, Mark. You're normally
I blame Chris for that. He sent me under a bus.
Could be the title of this YouTube stream.
so. You didn't do any timing corrections, did you?
No, see, this is where I suppose this is showing my limitations. So I did ask John for the click, and obviously it wasn't recorded for a click, and then I got scared. So I basically, like, I've tried time aligning stuff before without a click, and it's never gone down well.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah, and so what I didn't want to do was then go and make it worse, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So I
No,
thought,
also, I was going to defend the reverb in a way, because I thought, like, so I heard there was timing issues between the guitars and drums.
Yeah.
Like in certain places. But I think the addition of an actual bigger reverb sort of helped. I didn't like pick them out on your mix
oh, okay,
as
interesting.
much. So I didn't know if you'd sort of done that on purpose, basically, because like I said, it's like, oh, it's a bit
I'm,
more reverb than Mark normally puts on.
I'm going to say
However,
yes.
it kind of kind of hid some of those timing issues, I thought.
Well, reverb is I mean, when I used to work at the Collier Ferguson Hall, the music hall, classical musicians and choral artists love to be swallowed in reverb because it hides all their inflections and all their faults, as it were. But on this one, I must hold my hands up. It wasn't a purposeful choice. Once again, I think that is down to my my ears trying to readjust to the new mixing environment. So I wasn't hearing the reverb all that loud, to be fair. So it's interesting that everyone else is picking up on it loud. So it goes to show that what I'm hearing in the room is not quite translating as well as it should elsewhere. So I'll endeavour to resolve that, and apologies for that. But regardless, like I say, it's insightful, it's good for me, and I'm quite happy with the 7 out of 10 score, considering it's my first attempt at doing a mix like this. So yeah, I'm quite chuffed with that. So thank you very much. Appreciate that. Cool. Anything else, or shall we move on to Frank's one? I think that's a resounding move on.
Me, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to play
with all the enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like everyone's still got that post-Christmas lethargy, haven't they, going on? It's like, so yeah, obviously, sorry guys if I'm not addressing people in the chat. If Chris or Frank can just keep an eye on that for us, because I'm having a few technical issues this end. Whenever I go to the chat, it then wipes out the video cameras for some reason. So
Yeah, I'm chatting away. If
Oh,
you got
cool.
any questions in the chat, obviously throw them in.
yeah, any questions or any kind of input or feedback, and like I say, we're doing this new scoring system, so it's out of 10. So if you've got your own viewpoints on a scoring system, we'll chuck those in as well, because you never know with this UK versus USA thing, we could end up in a draw and we might need a deciding victor. Do you know what I mean? Like, so a deciding vote from the audience is helpful, maybe. So, right, okay. So moving on, let's play Frank's mix. So,
Mute our mics.
yep, mute the mics, please, gents.
Nice.
Yeah. Wunderbar.
Well done.
Thanks,
Good job.
guys. Cool. Yeah. Shall I say what I done? I guess.
Yes, please.
Do anything?
So yeah, I started, as I mentioned before, just before after Marks was played. I started with the time correction really, because I don't like mixing if there's things that I can hear need fixing. it kind of throws me off. So again, as we talked about, it wasn't recorded to a click, so I tempo mapped the drums. So I didn't do sort of any time correction on the drums. The drums were as they were, and then time corrected the bass and the guitars to that. And yeah, but as we've sort of said, it's sometimes tough without a click. And I was actually really worried about the end. I thought the end was kind of just not right. But there's only so much time I could put into it, so I sort of just left it there and was like, hopefully that's okay. And then pretty much most of the time I was just throwing on Sounds Amp on everything. Pretty much had Sounds Amp. Bass had Sounds Amp, the vocals had Sounds Amp, one of the guitars had Sounds Amp. So yeah, I sort of faked a second guitar, like double track guitar. So one mic obviously panned to one side, the other panned to the other, pitched it down a few cents, delayed it a couple of milliseconds or 30 milliseconds, something like that, and then put it through a Sounds Amp as well, so it just had a slightly different tone. Obviously, it introduced, you can hear some sort of phasing going on, but hopefully gave that sort of wider mix. And then yeah, I just sort of forgo the sort of trade off for that phaser type sound. But yeah, other than that, it was sort of fairly straightforward in terms of how I'd approach a mix, I think. Yeah, if you guys heard anything or any comments,
Yeah, I love the vocal effects. So that was Sans Amp.
Yeah, so parallel process. So I did have a dry vocal. Well, I say dry, you know, had EQ and compression and went to a reverb, but then that was sent to. Actually, I've got my session open, so I'll have a quick look. Yeah, a aux track that was compressed heavily, de-essed, and then yeah, Sounds Amp, just love it. Free with Pro Tools,
Nice.
slap it on everything, and
yeah,
it has that slight tone that Sounds Amp has, which sometimes annoys me. Like can't quite put my finger on it. But yeah, apart from that little tone that it has.
yeah, I love the little delays you threw on the vocal. Like I threw it in a couple spots, but
yeah,
I like that.
And on Mark's as well, actually, which I forgot to mention. He threw some delays in the same place.
Yeah, well, it seemed to be the only spot to sort of stick them in, really. But yeah,
I'll tell you something I did actually really want to do with this track, but just couldn't find the place. So I wanted to either drop the bass out or drop guitar, like drop a section, an instrument out for like a few bars or something.
Yeah.
I don't know, kind of give a slight break from something and then kick back in. But I just couldn't find an appropriate place, unfortunately. So
it is pretty. It's a pretty solid structure in terms of the song, isn't it? Like it's quite formulaic, and it kind of if you start removing things, it kind of loses its
exactly.
Pulse
it just
bit.
Lost it. If I just removed the bass or took away the guitar, it just like it's just not working. Like it's almost written to be there.
Yeah.
So I was just making it worse whenever I tried any of those things. So yeah, didn't do that.
No, cool.
I love the hot guitar solo. That was
like boring.
Yeah, if I listen back to mine a day later, like everyone does, and you're like, oh man, I should have. Oh man, you're always kicking yourself over too much this or too little that, and you went for it on the guitar solo. I like
throw yourself into it. Why not?
Yeah.
Faders just
all the way, all the way up.
So yeah, I think it's a really clean. It's quite a dry mix for you, Frank. Actually, apart from the delays, it's quite a dry.
Yeah, I again, as Matt just said, like when you listen to other people's and come back and I listen to mine, I'm like, oh god, this is really dry. Like,
I've just sort of really noticed it. Like I say, I mean, I listen to everyone's anyway, but like listen to it in context like this subsequently, like it really does stand out how wet mine was and how dry yours is. But yeah, no, really like it. I like the delays. Great snare sound, really nice punchy snare sound, really good kick bass relationship. I love the distortion effect. It's just the right amount of distortion, I think, on the vocals. Whereas, as John said before, like mine was sort of oversaturated in that regard. Yeah, and the rip roaring face solo is awesome, and right ripping off my face. It's great, and yeah, and like the timer line thing really did work. It's definitely the like a much tighter mix because of it, I think. Yeah, great dynamic range. It's got loads of air in it. It's nice. I think it's a great, really good mix. So
Thanks a lot.
yeah, no worries. Just go quickly check, see if there's anyone in the chat mentioning anything.
Dropouts are always great. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find the right place.
Yeah, and Chris Ibiston, good evening, sir. Says he likes the kick and bass relationship. And Kyle, sorry, I cannot pronounce your surname, sir. Jadrusiak, says definitely like the drums on this one, and there is a bit of pumping going on. So yeah, everyone's loving the drums and the kick bass relationship, and yeah, it's good. It's really, really good.
Thanks, guys.
Has anyone got anything else to add, or should we like get John's view on this now, as it were?
Did you guys, Mark and Frank, did you guys target a certain level, like LUFS level, like -14, -8, -10? Because there was, I forgot which one it was, but one of them was hot.
That'd be Frank's.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'll be mine. I went a bit hotter than I normally do. I normally go quite hot anyway, just assuming people are used to still sort of CD level. So you're
Yeah.
-8 RMS. But why I tried actually to go a bit hotter for this was the reference. Sorry, the rough mix was insanely hot. That was like -3 or something. So I wanted to sort it when someone's got a rough mix and it's like loud. You know, I didn't want to be too much quieter than that to to sort of sound like unfinished in comparison.
Right.
So yeah, that's why I went super hot. So my process is like in Pro Tools, I have a mix bus that prints. So I print within Pro Tools. Then I have a separate stage after that goes to a limiter, and then I print the limited one. So I don't sort of do a master, but I have a unlimited like mix, which would probably peaking at -6. RMS is probably, or LUFS is probably like -20 or something.
Right.
And then my limited one, which is and that's
Slammed.
people here.
Yeah. Yeah, so I go
Right
for
on.
the -14. So I've tended to sway along the lines of most people are going to listen on Spotify, and I don't really want Spotify squashing the life out of it, ideally.
Yep.
So I aim for the -14. But once again, it all depends. If John was my client, for example, that would be a discussion that we
Yeah,
have. And if he
exactly.
wanted it CD quality, I'd ram it up there. But that's
Oh,
a
yeah.
good tip that you brought up there, Frank, in terms of listening to the levels of the reference, like the actual, the premix, as it were, from the band. That's intriguing. I never thought of that viewpoint, so I'll be definitely knocking that one down for future.
Also, just an interesting fact, if you like. So obviously Spotify is -14 roughly. It uses a different leveling system.
Yeah.
But that's roughly what it is. Obviously, if you go over that, they turn it down,
Yeah.
but they don't actually apply compression. So it's the bad compression you're applying to get it loud. But if you actually are under -14 when you upload to Spotify, they do compress it to bring it up to that level.
Yeah, I have heard that. Yeah, that they.
So don't go under, because that's where it will actually change the sound of your
Yeah. I mean, the other reason I aim for -14 is because obviously, like Cole on the last show, he does a lot of his stuff on YouTube as well as SoundCloud and Spotify, and so that he's got a few different streams, and yeah, I could make a different master for each one, but I think if you aim for the -14, then you know that on average it's going to be fairly even and good across the board. It's one of them. I'm still sort of learning on that front, I suppose, in that regard. But I found so far it seems to translate okay. But Yeah, interesting point though, Frank, about well, both those points you brought up. To be fair, so yeah, but I'll be noting the first one for sure.
Yeah, sure.
I'm watching you.
Although to
Got a
add to
little
that, Spotify just announced that they're changing, that they are going to start using minus 14 LUFs direct instead of the other algorithm that they were using.
Oh, are they?
Yeah,
Nice.
they just announced it.
Ah,
Oh, cool. I'm behind the times.
yeah. See, you should be watching me, Frank. Eat my dust.
At the same point, as Frank said, it's still a reference and it's still a place to shoot for. But
Yeah.
more so, you need to know what Spotify's going to do to your mix if you front hotter.
Yeah.
So
So I've got this plugin. I can't remember the name of it now off the top of my head. I'll put it in. I'll put a link in the description later. But basically, this plugin, you play your most, like, your hottest dynamic part of the track, and it kind of scans through and then tells you roughly where you're going to be sitting for each of the different streaming platforms. So it brings up YouTube, it brings up Deezer, Spotify, pretty much everything, and shows you how much it's going to start limiting or suppressing the mix. And then you can actually preview how it will sound. So it's got like a preview button. You click on it, you click on the streaming platform you actually want to listen to, and then it previews how it's going
I
to.
use New Gen for that.
Oh,
Is
okay.
that what you mean?
No, I'm not using new gen. It's another similar kind of thing though, but another one. Yeah, and it's so I kind of use that as a reference point in terms of how my mix is going to sound roughly. Obviously, it's probably off a little bit, I would have thought, but it's close enough that I'm going to get a rough
Yeah,
idea.
New Gen's quite interesting because you. Oh yeah, I've got you lean as well, Chris in the chat.
yeah, I use Uwing also.
Which is good. I like you lean because you can throw in the file and it like analyzes it as a whole rather than you having to sit there and watch the watch what the meter's doing.
Yeah.
What was I going to say about New Gen? Oh yeah, you can listen to the difference. So what the sounds that you'll be missing once it is compressed by
Whatever platform.
Spotify or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a website called Loudness Penalty.
That's the one.
You can upload a track.
That's the one. That's the one that I paid for it and got the plug-in version of Loudness Penalty. Yeah, that's the one I use, is Loudness Penalty. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate that.
Yeah, I heard that one's really good.
You might get a cup of tea on the boat.
It's still being built.
It's being built and won't come to your next lifetime because of COVID. So, yeah. Cool. So, John, do you want to jump in here? You still with us? You're very quiet, sir.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for you guys to finish.
A boring technical discussion.
Rambling on.
Sorry.
That's okay. So you want me to talk about Frank's mix?
Yes, please, sir. Yeah, we'd like your viewpoints on it.
I do have my notes here. So this one, I think the band liked the best. We gave it a 9 out of 10, and
Wow.
let me go for the reasons. It really encapsulated, everything that we wanted to hear, where there's some definition in all the instruments and the vocals. He did add that second vocal that I heard that really beefed it up. What I would say though on the vocal, some of the lines, as you guys were saying, don't really line up. There's some timing issues. I would probably after, if I get the stems from you, I'd go in there and just line up the waveforms to make it, little by little as I go along to get those lined up. And then maybe just lower the volume on the second track of the vocals so that it's not two vocal tracks right in your face.
Yeah, sure.
Just to give it some depth. So I guess vocally that was the closest, I think, to our vision for the song. Let me go through all my comments here. The solo I felt faded too early. We want to hear that dive bomb right before the chorus kicks back in. So I would say that was something I noted. The beginning of the song, I felt I didn't hear the guitar at all. I mean, it kind of just came in a few seconds after. There were some notes missing in the guitar. I don't know if that was intentional or not.
So what I've done there, what I think, there's two things that might sound it like there isn't a guitar there, because there is. So remember I talked about I created sort of 2 guitars from that one thing.
Right.
In the beginning, I just had 1 guitar,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's quieter to the side. But also I took out some like like string scratches type sounds as well, so you don't get that sort of filler, which I was trying to make it sound kind of like tight, like
Right.
but yeah, I think I probably went too far there, and it just sounds like the
Yeah.
guitar's not there.
Yeah, no, I would just fix the first couple of seconds there.
Mm.
So let's see, what else did I write? This could be a performance issue. At around 2:30, the last Further to Oblivion in the verse seems to come in a bit late. I don't know if I heard that
Right.
it could have been when you were fixing the timing that
Yeah, I think
it got a little chopped there.
yeah, I didn't. I spent time on the chorus vocals,
Yeah,
but I didn't with the verse. And I think I just sort of assumed because I didn't move the drums that they're still being like sound in time.
yeah,
But yeah, that just went over my.
yeah.
That's just
So it's around 2:30. The verse there's just a bit choppiness in the words. So I noted that. The volume of the chorus versus the verse was not that even. That's
right.
one
As
thing I
in the
noticed.
chorus is too loud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
I
do
noticed
know
that.
that is
Yeah.
my style. I really.
No, I did enjoy what you did when the end of the verse came in. You threw on that little reverb, like on the line on 117. There's that Further Oblivion. You put
Yeah,
that reverb on just those words, and then. But I think I would tone back on the reverb and put a little bit more delay. Like I would
okay.
switch
Yeah,
those out. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
cool. That would work.
but let's see, what else did I write? Reverb added on the end. Yeah, okay. So and this was generally on all the mixes that the backing harmony on the chorus needs to come up a lot more. It needs to sound big, like like Mutt Lang or Queen or some just big chorus coming in. So I'd say push up that harmony, backing vocal, spread it out more with just a little bit of reverb.
Yeah, I was having to think about this actually after I'd finished the mix, and to try and like thinking of ways to try and get that Queen sound without like recording more harmonies. And I
Right.
think like you say, doubling, adding a bit more reverb. And I think probably some phasing sort of effects as well.
Okay. Okay.
Might
Yeah,
work.
because there's a great harmony on that. My
Mm.
guitar player did the harmony on that. Um, okay, so other than that, I mean, that was pretty tight. I got to say, the mix was pretty spot on.
Oh, thanks.
We really enjoyed that mix.
Oh, glad to hear it. Yeah,
Well
cheers.
done, Frank.
No,
Well
thanks
done.
for your feedback as well. It's like you say, it's really really useful, obviously. But yeah, it's always strange, kind of going in blind, and trying to do a full finish before knowing if you're going in any sort of direction, let alone the right one.
I must say, John, by the way, all credit to you, by the way, for the really insightful feedback. Like, I mean, we've had 2 other artists on, and no discredit to them at all. But your feedback is really, really to the point. Actually, we've had 3 other artists. Sorry, my apologies. But like it's the sort of feedback we need, where it's a really insightful thing, and like because we can watch this back afterwards, we can really kind of then go back and hone it in and be like, oh yeah, I see, yeah. Okay. So nice one. No, I really do appreciate that you've taken the time to really actually go through and check it and actually mark down the things correctly. So yeah, much appreciated. Thank you for that.
No problem. I have to say one thing out of the 25 years I've been at this, one thing I really like to do is sit down with an engineer when they're working and not get in their way per se, but just say, let's hear that guitar solo a little louder, or let's just do this or that, and yeah, I don't know a lot of bands that do that, or if they do, maybe they come out with a product that they're happy with, but maybe overall doesn't sound as good as it should, because they need to know a little bit more about the engineering process. And I've tried to study that quite a bit. So I know what all the tricks are as
Yeah,
well.
it's one of them. It's a hard one, because I think,
Yeah.
and a lot of engineers will agree that can actually end up being an engineer's worst nightmare sometimes, because you do get some people that come in, and obviously you've got the more me argument, where when you're listening to tracks, some musicians get so focused on their own instrument, they're not listening to the whole piece.
Right.
And so then they'll be like, more drums, more drums. So the engineer will mix it more drums. They take it away, and then it doesn't translate, and it's drum heavy. So it's hard, but you do every now and again get these people that come in that are like yourself, knowledgeable, have a greater idea of the overall picture, and it can work. So but I think for me, like, I normally bring an artist. So if you was in the UK, I would bring the artist in after I'd done close to my final mix, and then it would be the final tweaks with like the pointers that you're picking out. So you'd have a listen first at home, and then come in, and then we'd go over it and try and get it right in the room there, sort of thing. But which is cool. Cool. Right, anyone got anything further to add? Nope. Okay, cool. Well done on the 9 out of 10 there, Frank.
Yeah, no, that's very generous.
Threw me under the bus.
Thank you very much.
I think we should scratch a point for that and give it to me. Cool. Okay, so let's move on to Chris's mix next, I believe. Yeah. So if everyone would mute their mics, and without further ado, we'll move over to Logic.
You surf a tube, surf a light there in the dark, but you will never find it. Take their minds, take their hearts, and light the spark, a new hatred ignited. You wear the mask of the blind and dead patriot to kill the heathens around you. So be the proud follower master of your race and put others beneath you. Riding horses of the apocalypse, your promises leading to salvation. Live in misery and death are in your wake. It's your mistake. Further to oblivion. Pull all the racists from under their rocks and give them a leader. Take the bones and crush them under your feet. Put them in the feeder. Hang a rope, make a joke, and tie the noose for their opinions. Take your swords and your knives to cut them loose. Further to oblivion. Riding horses of the apocalypse. Your promises leading to salvation. Leaving misery and death there in your wake. It's your mistake. Further to oblivion.
Woo. Nice one.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah.
It's definitely in Chris's lane.
Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So, I read the notes, and the first thing I did was actually go and I went to Apple Music and pulled up the first Metallica record and just started listening for a little bit, and then I pulled some old Anthrax, and just a couple '80s thrash metal bands, and that's characteristic of not a lot of low end driving, driving kicks and snares, still in the upper range, some distorted guitar that kind of peeks through, or bass that peeks through, and kind of similar to what Frank did on the guitars. I split the channels left and right. I delayed the one side by about 15 milliseconds, gave it this Haas effect to give it the width and just make them bigger, because there was only the one, basically one guitar track. And you kind of saying at the top of the show that one was the 57, the other's the Royer. That makes more sense now. We didn't have a track sheet, so it was just our guess. But so um, I was kind of playing through that, and one of the issues I was having with the guitars is I was getting this huge resonance around 120 hertz, and it was just going woo 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 all the time, and I'm just like, it was just killing me. So a lot of EQ, some dynamic EQ, a couple other things, got that pulled out to where I thought it was pretty good again. But I still felt that the guitars were missing some mid range, and so what I ended up doing was taking both those tracks, duplicating them again, running them through a Mesa amp, an amp sim, not a real one because I'm poor, but ran it through a dual rectifier on just a crunchy lead, and just blended that in a little bit to give it a little bit more body, without masking the bass too much. I to Frank's credit, I didn't go through in timeline. We were talking earlier when we first got the tracks over, and he'd asked about the click, and okay, not recorded to a click. And I said, okay, yeah, there's a little bit, a couple timing issues here and there, but I liked the dynamic performance of it and a little bit of a push and pull. And so, I didn't bother going back through and trying to clean everything up. I thought, let's make the best. This is a good performance. Yeah, there's a little bit of back and forth, but overall really good. And and then same kind of is what Frank was saying. I was looking for a place to insert some additional production type element of an 808 drop, or something in metal, breaking glass, some sort of metal sound, clanking around. But it just drives so much from the beginning to the end. There was no place I could find to put it in. Like, it was just a great song beginning to end, and so driving that there wasn't a place to put more filler in. So other than that, some delays and reverbs on the vocals, a couple production effects of bringing in that double vocal with delay in the chorus, and then just trying to kind of pay homage to some old '80s thrash, and see where we could get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I really like this one. It's interesting, yeah. Track choices for referencing, because in the mix notes, I guess anyone watching wouldn't have seen, they reference like old school sort of Anthrax, that kind of stuff, but also more modern production, more modern metal as well. I went for 68, which I think I saw you post about something, Chris, or like some of their stuff before.
I love 68. Like,
Yeah.
they're so good.
Yeah.
Ex-Chariot members. Yeah, they are.
Love them too.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what I used. So yeah,
Okay.
obviously completely different directions. But
Yeah.
no, I love the tone of the guitars. I thought they were, yeah, I don't know what it is like about the guitars. Like, I can't say like, oh yeah, it was that, like you put a bump around 900 hertz or whatever. I don't know. But it just really worked for me, and sort of set the vibe of the track as well, which I thought just worked really well. kind of it makes sense now knowing your reference tracks. Like, yeah, it's got that sort of good sound. I liked your reverb choice as well. As we know, Chris, you tend to like to go a bit more reverb. I'm the dry boy, and you like a bit more. But I thought this reverb choice really worked because it sort of gave it that live edge. Like it almost sounded like they were playing in a venue, but without being sort of gimmicky. Like, oh, you know, they've tried to make it sound like they're playing live. It just gave that sort of aura, if you like, of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing, I thought the balance of the vocals in the chorus were really good, like quite different to mine. And like when I heard it, I was like, oh, that's a nice balance between the harmonies. Yeah. So yeah,
Thanks.
nice one.
I really like this one as well. Yeah, just a real clean mix, a lot of air. It's got a nice live sound to it. Like it just feels more open but yeah, just it's punchy, it's rocky. The guitars sound amazing. The tone of it is great. Yeah, I can't really add much more than that, really, Chris. It's a great mix, and yeah, really, really, really like this one, mate. Well done.
Yeah, I'll just go back to what I said. It definitely is in Chris's lane. Great mix. I listened to a lot of the same stuff too before I worked on my mix, and while I was working on my mix, and yeah, really dig top to bottom. Nice mix overall.
I will add, just because this has been an ongoing topic since the beginning that we ever started Mix Off Monday. My mix template now has, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different reverb auxes and a chorus aux that are in every one of my mix templates that I boot up, just so that I can blend it in and figure out how I want to create that space.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
It's
Me
very,
too.
very.
Yeah, you don't want to know how many I've got.
And those are my every time, let alone stuff I may add in later. The only thing I would say, like if this was a band that I had been working with, and John, if we were to work together, going forward, probably the only other thing I would ask for is ask for DI guitar tracks, and that way we could duplicate them or add some additional amps or blend amps, because in metal you blend amps all the time.
right.
So many modern metal recordings aren't just a Mesa, aren't just an Orange, aren't just a Marshall. They're usually 2 or 3 blending together.
Yeah.
And that's,
It's a fight I have with the guitar player. Trust me. He loves to get his tone through his pedals and just have everything mic'd up. And I'm the DI guy. I'm like, well, dude, you can do the same performance, and we can tweak it however we want if you go direct in. And so we have that back and forth. But in the end, I mean, I it's his part, and he wants to have it sound the way he wants it to sound. So
I say run both.
yeah,
Just
I would say that
both.
too, right.
You never know when you need to go back to a DI, or you want to reamp.
After hearing this feedback, after hearing the feedback, I would say let's go in and put another guitar part in, at least one. If not, maybe like a drop D part or something that just gives it that meat.
I think it's good for texture as well, John. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make it stand apart. Then it kind of just thickens the sound out and gives it that texture and that depth that you're after in terms of that sound. Like you were saying with the vocals, you can do a similar thing with the drums and bass, and so if you want a section to have that warmth and that depth, it's always good to try and layer up and thicken up. It may seem like a very modern technique, but it does work.
It does, yes. All right. Well, he will be watching the stream, so hopefully
cool.
We'll be getting together and and get that done.
Yeah, I mean it's no reflection on his playing, by the way. Like I say, it's very virtuosic.
He's a phenomenal
player.
player.
Without a doubt. And his amp sound is phenomenal. Don't get me wrong; he's got a great tone.
Yeah, it's a
but
tube amp, JCM. It's just a great sound.
Yeah, man, without a doubt. So your thoughts on unless anyone else has got anything else to add quickly, but yeah, I think if John wants to step in now and give Chris's feedback. That would be handy.
Yeah, I heard everything Chris was talking about, in that it's a very, raw in your face punk rock kind of, old school metal, very, I can't say dry, but it feels like a live band just playing, and you're hearing a live band, and that's kind of what I like personally. I don't like a whole lot of effects if it has to do with this type of song. However, I didn't get the same reaction from the other band members. So, yeah, this was their least favorite. But I have to say, I did like it though, but I do have some comments.
Okay.
Okay, so let me pull this up. The chorus I felt was completely lacking the backing vocals and harmonies.
Okay.
That really needed to come up a lot more. I can't stress this enough. It needs to be like a big chorus. The verse, it just needed some sort of effect on it. I don't know. Slight distortion, slight delay, something, maybe a delay in some parts. Maybe use the second vocal track, to emphasize certain parts of the verse or parts of the chorus. You know what I mean? There's little things we can do to really punch up the vocal. Solo definitely needed to come up. Sorry, go ahead.
All that stuff is there. It's just we probably need to bring it forward a little more. Sorry.
Yeah. So the solo could definitely come up a lot more in the mix. So the bass, I couldn't really hear too. I mean, like I said, I had it on some pro monitors. The bass, it could just be a little ballsier, some distortion maybe, or maybe EQ the lower frequencies, or I don't know. It just didn't pop in enough, I would say, in the mix. Certain words could have, I know other people were doing this, and I really enjoyed that, is that like words could have some delay on it, especially the name of the song, Further to Oblivion, on the verse and the chorus, on the screams, whenever I do that high Further to Oblivion scream or anything, definitely throw on some delay on that. It really lends itself well to the ear, to hear that. EQ on the snare and cymbals, they didn't cut through enough. I didn't hear those high end on the cymbals, and I'm starting to think maybe that it was in the recording, that we needed to go back and like we discussed, just go ahead and retrack just the cymbals and have those without bleed in the mix on separate tracks.
I definitely think it's worth a try, John.
Yeah,
I think try everything until it works, and if it don't work, then there's something else awry. But yeah, definitely worth a shot.
But
Yeah, I
still,
think-
overall, I mean, nobody hated this. Everybody actually liked this one. In fact, they liked all your mixes. I thought they were fantastic, and so I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Nice.
Take it.
Yeah.
No,
The other guys gave it a 7, but I'm giving it an 8, and I'm on the stream, so I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah, well, you're the final say,
Hated it.
John. Do you know what I mean? So, well done.
You get
Chris.
3 votes.
Yeah. No, well
I
done.
appreciate it.
Sorry, Chris. Go on. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Oh no, I was gonna say I appreciate it. Yeah, I get what you mean on the bass, and I think that's something to where like I do a lot of mixing on headphones, so it's actually kind of funny because the bass track is duplicated, and there's a high pass and low pass to split it kind of in half in the bass frequencies, to where the upper half is distorted and the lower is still pretty clean.
Okay.
And I tried to blend them pretty well, and there was areas I thought it stuck through, but it was just something that it's one of those cases where we probably just need to sync up our ears a little bit so that we're hearing the same thing, and we get there. So
I think more so than the bass though was the cymbals, because this is such a heavy song. You got to hear those cymbals just crashing throughout. Not overwhelming, but enough to where you hear them. So that's one thing I think I was lacking in all the mixes, and I'll take the blame for that, because I think I think we need to retract that.
I'm going to
Yeah, I
blame
think
Frank.
Sorry?
Nothing. Don't. I was
Oh,
being
blame me.
facetious.
Yeah.
We'll be going back to our mixes after this and turning up the overheads just to see what we hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
oh, go on.
I was gonna say I'm a lifelong drummer myself, and like
Commiseration.
20 years ago, I invested in really nice cymbals, and I'm like super sensitive to certain cymbal sounds. And when I have people, over to record, I tell them, please, please, please bring your favorite snare, cymbals, pedal, all that stuff. We'll try it out. And when they walk in the door, I'm like, hey, just give my stuff a try. And if you hate that cymbal over there, put yours up. And if you hate the ride, put yours up. And it's wild how often they'll go with my cymbals, like completely, because especially in the mix, they just sit like you could just turn them up and up and up.
You're a fellow white noise man, aren't you, Matt? You've spent hours researching which symbols to get yourself, just listening to white noise.
Well, anyhow, with all that said, I don't know if I'm a white noise guy, but anyhow, with all that said, I didn't want to crank the cymbals too much because they had this like harsh clanginess to them. And I don't know if it was the cymbal itself. I don't know if it was the mics. I'm not sure what it was, but there was a tone in the cymbals that I just didn't feel comfortable like putting front and center in the mix. So I made like a decision, right or wrong, to maybe not put them way out there. So yeah, that's my feedback.
Yeah.
If you go to record, in the future, at the drummer's house, it could be, there's some very interesting things you can do with overhead mic placement, where if they're directly above the cymbals, there's kind of a warmer sound. And as you pull them away from the cymbal and it can see more of the edge, there's like a brighter tone. And sometimes you can like use overhead mic placement to kind of EQ the sound a little bit. So anyhow, that's an area that I struggled with, where I didn't want to push them up too much because I didn't like what I was getting.
Yeah,
That's hard to fix.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
In fact, on my overheads, like you say, they're really sort of, there's that harsh sort of sound, and I low pass filter them, sorry, to like about down to 8K. Just took out the highs. Yeah, which I like rarely sort of do. Just so I could, so I was trying to bring them up, but without trying to get that sound through. But it was a tricky one. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Right on.
Right on. Okay, cool. So are we all happy to move on?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Well done, Chris.
Thank you.
Nice
Yeah.
one, Chris.
Yeah, well earned, mate. Cool. Right. So without further ado, we will play Matt's track. I think what we'll do is we'll play Matt's track. We'll do the in-depth discussion. We'll get the feedback, and then we'll just have a quick interview with you, Matt, as well, just about who you are, where you're from, what you do. Do you know what I mean? Where people can find you and stuff, and then we'll go from there. And hopefully, John will choose a winner, as it were. So, without further ado, we will now play Matt's track. So, mute the mics again, please, gents.
Take their hearts and light the spark, a new hatred ignited. To where the
Hey, nice.
Yeah, nice one.
Good job.
Really
Yeah,
good.
thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah, so should I jump in kind of my thought process like the other guys did?
please do, sir. Please do.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, so what I like to start with is like ask the band for references and stuff to check out. Because there's that time period of pulling stuff into your template and all that stuff and trying to get your ears attuned to your Metallica and your Megadeth and your Mastodon and I actually listened to Monstradamus on Spotify for a while I was pulling it into my template, and then I think all pretty normal stuff to start with. So getting basic levels and pan and seeing what I have and going, oh wow, there's 5 toms, sweet. And like, whoa, there's only stereo guitar. And like pulling up the bass and going, hell yeah, like loving that. And then pulling up 3 vocals and going, huh, I wonder what their thoughts were on that. And this is kind of a strange scenario where I wasn't able to go ask, like, hey, what are you thinking on the vocals? Do you really want to hear vocals throughout, or do you want it just on the choruses or whatever? And then I saw the note, the mix notes on putting some kind of megaphone type effect on the vocals as well. So from there, I really like had a basic mix going. And then I just went all in on removing noises and distraction and timing things. I think I fixed 50 timing things. And basically my goal,
Wow.
yeah, and my goal with the way I mix, at least, right or wrong, is I want to remove all the distractions. Like you just like totally get into the song and you don't hear the weird little noises, or you don't hear the timing weirdness between the second vocal or whatever. Like I really wanted that when you put on the song, you just totally get into it and not hear distractions. So did a ton on that. And then since we're all audio engineers, I'll pick out a couple things that come to mind that I did that maybe are different. There was like some like flamming on the kick drum, so I gated that to the point where the flams went away, but it didn't really affect the sound. So there's no trigger or anything on the kick. That's just gating that I worked out. I would be fine replacing the kick or augmenting the kick with the sample, but I felt like I didn't need to. I use addictive trigger on the snare, so there's the main snare and a little bit of trigger kind of blended a little bit. If anybody cares, I think I went with a bell brass snare, and I own one of those. Love that drum.
Nice.
So I also split apart the guitar so that I could treat it differently between the verses and the choruses. And then I think I split it yet again for the ending because I wanted it to just kind of build to the end. So if anybody finds that interesting. The bass was awesome. I think I just did basic EQ, compression, and then decapitator on there. And at one point, I wanted it to just kind of just like glue more than it was. And I do recall taking the decapitator just a little bit more because it kind of shaves off some stuff so that you can push it even more in the mix.
Yeah.
And then I tried out Brower Motion on the guitar solo just to give it a little bit of movement back and forth. That's kind of an interesting one. And then kind of my failing on this one, I tried the megaphone thing on the vocals. I think I tried Decapitator. And then I was for a little while mixing with, I think it's the Futz box, which is a cool plugin with a whole bunch of megaphone and distortion options in it. And I had something that was cool. And I was like, I don't know, it just didn't seem right for the song, for whatever. Anyhow, that's kind of the interesting bits. And then obviously tons of automation. So it kind of built to the end. I think if you were to check out my levels like I did early on, I think it was like maybe minus 15 LUFS. And by the time it hits the end of the song, I blew right past minus 14 LUFS. And I think,
yeah.
So yeah, good times. And I one other thing that I maybe hid a little bit too much, I did add a sub boom twice in the song, but I didn't make it stick out too much. But there is a boom at the beginning of the guitar solo.
I was going to bring
So-
that up because it's been mentioned in the chats as well. And to be honest with you, I don't know. Once again, I think it's my blooming room because when I listened to it on my monitors, I didn't hear it, but on the headphones, it was like. It was just like, whoa! I didn't hear that the first time round. So yeah, it's a nice little touch, I must admit, and it's very prominent, very just suddenly gut wrenching kind of kick, as it were. It's good. It's good. So yeah, anyone want to jump in?
Yeah, sure. No, I really liked it. Wrote down some notes. One of them is just popping snare.
Yep.
Loved it. Snare was popping. I really liked you sort of brought out the rhythm of everything really well. So it just compared to all the other mixes, it just sounded like it had more. The rhythm was accentuated somehow. I don't know if you'd done anything in particular to do that, or it just happened to come out that way. But yeah, I thought that was really good. I liked that I could really clearly hear the strums of the guitar in the chorus. Like it wasn't a clean guitar, obviously, but it just was kind of articulated quite well. Yeah, that was really nice. Nice to see you went for a similar thing on the like a big verb delay on the the line further to Oblivion.
Yeah,
Same
yeah.
sort of thought there.
It needed it.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, that's kind of it. Apart from stuff you already mentioned. But yeah, really good.
Chris?
Nice.
Yeah, I agree. You know, to put together a full production and kind of get all those things that distract you along the way, and so that you just sit there and enjoy the song. You know, and I can hear the differences from mine where I just kind of left it as is, and you know whether there's mistakes or happy accidents or however you want to call them, but you can see where yours tightened up, and it was just a full-on produced song.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I
I didn't do anything rhythmically. It's an interesting point, but I didn't do anything like quantizing it to the grid or anything like that. It just kind of
Yeah, no, I think it was just like the way you've mixed it, essentially EQ'd, and the guitars were just coming out and bringing out that rhythm like a bit more.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think out of all of them, I think it's the one that has the most cohesion and just feels glued. It's a really good mix, Matt. I love the snare. The snare is the first thing that hits you in the face, and it's like, whoa, that's a snare. It's a good snare. And then I like actually how you did get. I know you said you didn't want to push the cymbals too high, but I think out of all the mixes, for me personally, the cymbals were the most prevalent in your mix, and the cleanest sounding, like just sounded great. Vocals I found sat really nice in the mix for me. I love that sub, like I say, that was a nice little touch. And yeah, and the reverb and the delay on the last Further to Oblivion was also a nice little added feature. So yeah, well done, really good mix. You should be proud, man. It's good. So
yeah, thanks. I had fun with it for sure.
Yeah, man. It's an interesting project, right? It's I do like this show for the sort of variants we get. So it's a good one. So John, do you wanna step in and add your critique?
I will. Thank you.
No worries.
Matt, thank you for what you did. I'm going to go ahead and have a look here at what I wrote. So again, we gave this an 8 out of 10. We thought it was really, really tight, really well done. I'll chime in with what everybody else said. I did like what you did with the snare. However, it kind of overpowers everything else. I mean, it really is too much in the forefront, I think, in the song. That would be my only critique of that. But the sound, but the quality of it, the sound of it, the snares, it really, really sounds good. I still feel the cymbals could come out even more. But yeah, I mean, this is tough. I mean, I have to admit, I mean, I'll mix a whole set of drums and then go on to the rest of the mixing project and then go back and say, oh man, I got to fix those drums again. So going back and forth with the drums and the rest of the instruments is definitely a challenge, because you can, you can keep doing it until, like you said, you go over your dB limit. And
right.
So, So, and I wrote again, just chiming in what everybody said. I like what you did with the delay on Further to Oblivion. The main vocal still, I would say, needs to come up more because, well, maybe not. Maybe it's just the snare that needs to come down because, again, that was overpowering.
Yeah. Yeah.
Solo needs to come up. The chorus needs to come up more. Backing and harmony vocal, again, up with the main vocal. It really needs to sound big. Just having that high harmony in with the main harmony just gives it that, you know, that nice vocal range that this song needs. I'm not the greatest of singers, but I think for this song, it's very raw in your face, and I think you know, there's a lot of comments about, well, you know, we shouldn't put too many effects on it because then you lose the rawness, and we want it to sound like, well, this is a trio, you know, playing in a either in a garage or on stage or whatever, just a trio, and that's why we didn't want to layer too many vocals and too many guitar parts. Wanted to just make it sound like it's us playing, and that's essentially what it is. You know, this is pretty much live, what you're hearing right there. So I really appreciate everyone's you know, insight into this. It's given me some thought into approaching how to record anything we do in the future, things we should add in. We need, I think, more dynamics in our EQ to give us some more low end, some more high end, you know, give the engineer more options, I would say, and give you guys more tracks. I think that's the lesson I learned from this. So
yeah. And kind of where we left all of our mixes, it's like it's ready for client feedback, right? And to kind of dial it back in, you know, dial it in a little bit more. And yeah, I appreciate the feedback. Just want to say that.
Yeah. One thing I'll kind of add in there, building off John, what you were saying is there are some engineers out there that, you know, they'll get a set of tracks and they think I've got to use everything that's here that the artist recorded, or else I'm not serving them. And I take a different approach, and I know some of the other guys do as well, is that I'll keep it in if it makes sense, but you don't have to use everything that is provided sometimes. And sometimes there's a reason that you only want to use a bit of it, or there's been times where I haven't used the track at all because I didn't feel like it fit. And then you can start having that conversation with the artist to see, does it really fit, or how do we want to add this in, or you know, take that approach. But so I like it when artists, you quote, over record and have so many tracks that we can pick and choose and comp from and do other things, because then at least you have it if you need it down the road.
we do have about 8 different solos for this song, believe it or not. I mean, that was really the focus for the guitar player. I mean, he nailed the rhythm part like all the way through, and he felt, you know, we didn't need to re-record that any more times. It was perfect the way it was. But certainly we should go back and do another rhythm track just to give you another option for, you know, putting it somewhere else in the field, you know, in the sound field there, somewhere in the lower EQ or higher EQ, however you want to put it, just to fill it out. And yeah, I would say other than that, you know, I was really experimenting. I wanted to do some really crazy solo for this one, to where, I don't know if you guys ever heard the solo on Taxman, you know, the Beatles song.
Yeah.
That's the only solo that Paul did on guitar, and it is the most erratic, strangest, uncopyable solo you could ever do. And that's kind of what I wanted to do initially. In fact, we spent hours just noodling and getting, you know, strange effects. I would mess with his, you know, MXR phase pedal, or, you know, he has a whole pedal board full of effects, and, you know, I would just mess around as he's playing a solo, and he would, you know, do random notes here and there. And I really wanted that craziness, but he ended up giving me this unbelievable shred solo that I was like, you can't top that. I mean,
Yeah.
that was just so good.
It went very, very well. I love it.
Yeah.
No, cool. So just very quickly, I've just been reminded, and I apologise in advance. But happy birthday, John.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
happy birthday.
Yeah. And thank you for giving up your time, your valuable time on your birthday to spend it with us, to geek out, and to share your music and your passion with us, man. It's
Guys,
really
this is the greatest birthday present you guys could give me. I appreciate that.
Oh
to,
man,
Nice.
that's
have,
cool.
have mixed one of my songs. I appreciate that, guys.
Oh no, our pleasure. Thank you very much. So we'll come back to you in a minute, John. At the moment, as it stands, ladies and gentlemen, it is a draw, technically speaking. But we'll come back to you, John, in a sec, and we'll get you to choose. You know, if you was to, in the real world scenario, or if you genuinely do, which one of us you would actually like to go forward with to work further on, maybe for the rest of the album, or maybe just to complete the track itself. And that's entirely up to you, and that's a conversation you can have with whoever you choose. But we'll get you to pick the winner of the boat, as it were. And yeah, so but in the meantime, we'll come to Matt, if that's okay, please. So Matt, welcome. Thank you very much for coming on to the show with us. It is a pleasure to have you. I was linked up to you through our wonderful mutual friend Addy. Our wonderful Addy, and yeah, so basically he found you through a mix competition, if I'm right in speaking, and you was the winner. So congratulations on that. But yeah, tell us a bit more about yourself, sir. Like what's your history, and how did you find the mix competition with Addy, as it were? So
Yeah, all great questions. So yeah, I started life as a drummer, like at around age 9 or something like that. I started beating on pots and pans and all that good stuff, and got a drum kit and would play hours and hours a day. Started gigging at age 15, like gigging out like 80 shows a year kind of thing, and played in a ton of bands on the East Coast, Virginia area. That's where I grew up primarily, and one of the bands I was playing in, we decided as a band we're going to save all our money from all the shows and book a studio. And so we booked a studio, and I was maybe 18 at the time, and the guy who had all the money didn't show. There's the lead singer, whatever. And so I'm hanging out with the recording engineer of the studio that we booked. And he and I are just kind of hitting it off. We're going through gear and we're talking drums and all this good stuff. And in the end, I decided I was like really interested in audio, and I kind of had it already decided I wanted to go to an audio school. Maybe that's why we're hitting it off, because I was like into it, and so was he. So I went to the recording workshop a long time ago. That's that one in Chillicothe, Ohio, just south of Columbus. That was a lot of fun. Paid for it out of pocket, and came back and worked in the studio for a bit. And then I got into live sound for about a decade. I owned a regional live sound company.
nice.
That the short version of that story is I was working in the studio, working 12 to 16-hour days, and I got burnt. And I got to run live sound a couple times, and I was like, this is what I want to do. And back then, you would get these credit card offers for 25 grand from Visa and like 25 grand from MasterCard. And I decided I'm not a businessman or anything like that, but I know with my recording engineering skills
It
that
transfer.
if I brought that to live sound, it's going to work out. I just knew it was going to work out. So I decided to go for it. And I racked up those 2 credit cards, and I'm really proud to say I paid it off in about 2 years.
Well done. Yeah.
And then all my clients kind of graduated from nightclubs to playing larger venues. And they were asking me like, hey, do you have a larger system, or can you rent one? So I rented it a couple times, and then I caught the bug, like doing larger events, 1 to 8,000 people. It's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
For sure.
Especially when shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
which never happens in live sound.
Yeah,
No,
oh,
no.
honestly, oh, yeah, I've had a few scary seat your pant moments. But
Yep,
yeah,
yep. So anyhow, about 20 years ago, 15 years ago, kind of walked away from that and got way into just recording. And like everyone else, it's like it was my basement, and it was like a mixing board, and it was like early Pro Tools or early Cubase, um, and then recorded some bands, made a little money, bought some nicer stuff, did somebody else's project, bought some nicer stuff. So like all the stuff you see behind me is just all that hard work.
yeah, man.
So yeah, I basically I married an awesome woman named Stacy. We have 2 kids, and basically the basement is mine. So this is the control room. There's a separate spot in the back of the control room with video between the live room. The live room is like a totally sound isolated room inside of a room kind of thing where I can actually properly monitor
Yeah,
what's going on in there. And there's about a half mile of cables between the rooms, and 24 simultaneous input Pro Tools rig,
nice.
DW kit, vintage Ludwig kit. There's a baby grand piano, and all that good stuff. So anyhow, that's kind of where I'm at. And
Cool. So how long
yeah.
has your studio business been up and running, as it were?
Well, technically in the U.S., I'm not running a business.
No. Okay.
So
Yep. All right. So your hobby side project, as it were.
right,
Yeah.
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 So the U.S. came down on musicians in the last decade, and if you show like all these expenses and like a fraction of that is income, you're not running a business. It's
Yeah.
not recognized as a business. If I try to write off all this stuff, they're like, no, you're not running a business.
Yeah.
So even though I might charge little bits of money here and there, compared to what's sitting behind me, compared to what's
Doesn't
in the other
cover it.
room,
Yeah.
I'm technically not running a business.
Yeah. Fair play.
Um,
Fair play.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So okay. So in the format that you are running, what you're doing, like I say, your hobby side project thing. I'm not sure
Sorry,
how to
we're
say it
off.
without yeah. Talk about sticky wick. Yeah. So how long have you been sort of functioning like that, as it were?
So my first time hitting record for money was like 30 years ago.
Okay. Cool. Fair play. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But me doing it in the early Pro Tools, early Cubase, all that stuff was maybe 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah. Nice.
Something like that.
Nice.
Yep.
No. Nice. Yeah. Very, very cool. Okay. Cool. So if people would like to come and say hello and use said facilities, how could people find you, and how could people get in touch with you should they want to? And you're based in the Denver area, is that right? Is that what you said? Yeah.
Hour north of Denver,
Yeah.
up at Fort Collins.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
how
we
can
missed-
how people get in touch with you, as it were?
We missed one thing. I want to thank Addy. So he was judging a mixchallenge.com thing, and during COVID, all my clientele slowed down. So I decided I would drop my hat in on one of those mix contests, and somehow I won. Very grateful for that. It's like a worldwide competition, and he was nice enough to introduce me to you, and here we are. So I just want to thank him
Yeah, man.
for that. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah.
And shout out to what he's doing, recording bands around the globe.
Yeah, some
so,
mean
yeah.
feat, right? Yeah, he's he's a wonderful, wonderful gentleman, and I can't thank him enough. He's really supportive of what we're doing and loves what we're doing, and it's nice that he's opening the avenues for people like yourself that we can all hook up and stuff, and hopefully this can be a blossoming relationship between a lot of us going forward. Do you know what I mean? And we can get you on some more shows going forward as well. So that's the idea.
Yeah,
It'd be
great.
nice to have, like I say, a cycle of engineers that we can get in as guests. And I know that I've got a few in the pipeline at the moment, and then, like I say, we can then bring you back on in a few months' time and just keep going down that route. Do you know what I mean? And
Yep.
hopefully it brings us all some clients to work with and some fun and some learning curves for us all as well. So yeah, that's the idea of it. But yeah, but no, I appreciate it. Go on, Karen.
Yeah, thanks for letting me go on that tangent there. I just wanted to give him a
No,
shout
no,
out.
of course, no, man. Look, this
Yeah.
is an open platform, right? This is an open platform for us all to share our knowledge, our skills, our love for the job, our love for what we're doing, and a mutual respect for each of us. Do you know what I mean? And the artists as well. So it's like I say, it's an open platform. This is your moment, Matt, in terms of, you know, it's your, whatever you want to say, you've got the floor, sir. So yeah.
Right on. Right
Yeah,
on.
no worries.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to find me, I'm on sonicSpaceStudio.com or Facebook, Sonic Space Studio. I only have one studio. There is a Sonic Space Studios with an S. That's not me. I believe it's in Australia. I only have one studio. So if that helps you find me, Sonic Space Studio, that's me.
Cool. And links, once again, ladies and gents, will be down in the description below. So if you want to speak to any of us, or if you're an artist and you would like to get involved, similar to John and Monstradamus today, or any of the previous artists that we've had, then obviously, like, you can check out all the previous episodes. All the links to their material is there. If you want to actually get in touch with the bands as an artist that wants to find out how they found the process and how they enjoyed it, then you know, to get an honest opinion, then please do. If you want to work with any of us as an artist and actually just want to come and see us and not do the show, then please get in touch. But if you do want to be part of the show, either as a mix engineer, as a guest engineer, or as an artist, then please get in touch via info@marleraudio.com below. So, okay, we're in a stalemate, gents, and we need to resolve this. There has to be a winner for a boat that no one's going to get. So John, if I can welcome you back on, sir, and
Yeah.
like, thank you ever so much, by the way, for giving us this opportunity. It's not easy for an artist to just hand over stuff. We get that. You know, it is your pride and joy, and it can be quite horrifying sometimes when you get a result back. Do you know what I mean, that you weren't expecting? So
Yeah, and I have to be honest, out of all the tracks on this new album, this does have the fewest amount of tracks. We really wanted that, you know, trio, you know, raw kind of sound. So we just kept it real simple.
yeah,
You know, I mean, we have some tracks, just multi-vocal layers that if you want to share the link with the other guys of the demos that we have going on, they
Yeah.
can hear some of the other tracks on the album. There's one called "The New Dead Sound," and it literally is like a mix of Zeppelin and Queen and like all the classic, you know, bands of the day, and just a real big sound, Sabbath. And I think you guys will really like it. I think we're going to push that as our single, in fact.
yeah, nice,
'Cause
nice.
the band really likes that. Yeah.
Yeah, if
Um,
you resend me the link, I'll get it forwarded on to everyone. Because
Sure.
you know, it's like links can get buried in chains of conversations. So yeah, if you
Right.
send it to me, I'll forward it on to everyone so they can have a listen. So yeah, nice one. But so yeah, cool. So yeah, like I say, thank you so much. Like I say, it's not easy to hand stuff over. To strangers as well at that. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you can come and visit us in the UK and check the studio out and go out for lunch and get a
We
rapport
would
going.
like to do that, though. You
Oh
know,
man,
once this is
anytime.
all over, I mean, we want a world tour. We want everything.
Oh,
We want to do it all.
dude, anytime. And if I
So
can find you some, like, once we're out this COVID thing and we're gigging again over
yeah,
here, if you do end up over this way and you need some venues, I'm sure I can tap some people up to get you some gigs over this way. So,
nice. We
um,
appreciate that.
yeah, no worries, man.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. But
So
yeah, go.
yeah, and likewise, if you're ever out here, you always got a place to stay, you and your family, you know. So no worries.
Nice one, man. No, I appreciate that. Much love for that. Yeah, thank you, man. But yeah, so thank you for that.
yeah.
It's been a real pleasure. Like, it has been a real pleasure from my perspective. It's an interesting one. I've been really looking forward to this mix off because it is like we get multiple different genres at the moment, and I'm trying to keep it as open as possible in that regard and make it multifaceted and to really test us all and into different aspects, not just one genre. You know, keep it open in that regard. And so, like I say, this is my first foray into the metal thing, and it's been an absolute joy to do it. It's a great song. And so, yeah, I hope you got what you wanted out of it, or at least close to it. So, in that regard, if you was to choose one of us to work with, who
Okay.
would you
So I
pick?
mean, you know, I mean, you read my notes prior to this, so
Yeah.
you get an idea of at least where my vision of the song it was. But I did confer with the band as well, and they were right on board with everything I'd mentioned, and close to the vision of what we were looking for as far. And this has nothing to do with how you guys mixed it or anything of that nature. It just has to do with like how we heard the song
Yeah,
mixed,
the
right?
sound in your head. Yeah, yeah.
And I think what came the closest to that was Frank's mix. I mean, I have to
Oh,
say that I have to say that really he gave it that vibrancy as far as being able to hear everything, and it was all just right there, and we were able to distinguish most of the parts. He did bring up the backing and harmony, and it was a great chorus on that. There were those little issues I brought up, but that's nitpicking. But it was a very good mix, and I would have to say I would go with Frank's mix on this one.
cool.
And once again, not putting anybody else's mix down. They were just very different, and everybody has their own tastes. And for any other song, it would have been very different. I would have to say.
Yeah.
But this was specifically, like you said, a metal song, very old school Metallica type of in your face, even punk rock to some extent, because it was an angry song about 2020, and so we wanted it to be that kind of feel. It didn't need a lot of extraneous effects on it. It just needed to cut through in the mix, be able to hear all the parts, and we just like that mix. It really had everything going for it, I think, for what we were looking for.
Yeah, nice. Well done, Frank. Awesome, awesome
Well,
stuff.
thanks a lot.
And
That's
I,
really kind of you.
yeah, yeah, and I appreciate your comments about everyone else's mixes as well. And obviously, like you say, another track may well be different. But you've got all our details now, John. Sorry, apologies. It's getting late in the day here. But yeah, you've got all our details. So if you ever need any of us again in the future, like you're more than welcome to contact us, and we can sort something out. I'm sure. So I think based on that, then Frank, you might have just saved it, mate. And I think the UK might have just won this one. Sorry, gents.
Right.
But
I was born and bred on British rock, so what can I say?
there we go. So
Fine.
you've heard it there, official, ladies and gents. It's the UK has won the mix off Monday, UK versus USA round 1. This is not the end of the story. I will be doing another one of these in the near future, hopefully. I'm just waiting for another band to come through on it. But yeah, no, I think it's been thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you to everyone in the chats, by the way. Sorry once again that I haven't been able to keep up on it. Like I say, I've had a few technical difficulties this end tonight. But yeah, thank you ever so much for coming. Really appreciate your support. Thank you, gents, for doing such hard work on this and being involved in it. It's a real honour to have you guys involved, and much love to you. And thank you, John, and the band, man. What an awesome track, awesome band. I love the vibe of you guys. I wish you all the best with it. And any way that we can help, please let us know. So, Chris, no, nice one, man. Appreciate that. Chris, if people want to find you, and what are you up to currently? And where do they go if they need to get in touch with you, mate?
So easiest way is Instagram or Facebook. You can search Red Oxide Studio. Links are down below as well. So pretty easy to get a hold of. You can just IM me or DM me or whatever the kids call it these days. And then in terms of what I'm up to, keeping busy. Obviously, you can see I'm traveling kind of for the day job a little bit. So even though there's pandemic running amok around the entire world, let alone even worse in the U.S., I get to drive 7 to 8 hours every week and hang out in hotel rooms. But that doesn't stop me from mixing. I've still got, I got my headphones. I have my little Steinberg interface, little basically studio on the road that I can still keep working on projects, and got a couple songs I'm working on. So I'm looking forward to getting those out there and kind of showing off some more stuff we can do.
Is that 50 track project that you're working on currently?
That I'm still working on. that's just a ton of mixed notes, and it's all virtual. There's no studio that we're sitting in, so they'll send me all the tracks. I'll take a first stab at it, kind of like what we did here, and then you know pretty much through a spreadsheet that's on Google Docs, we just relay information back and forth, and they say, hey, at 2 minutes, change this. At 1 minute, change this, and I go through and I make some edits, and we'll go back and forth and get to the point where we're ready to master and release it. So you
Yeah,
don't
nice.
need to be sitting in $1 million studio to get work done, which
No.
is the good thing.
You and Addy are both proof of that. Do you know what I mean? Addy does all of his stuff on headphones, man, and it's phenomenal. The quality you guys get out of it is awesome. So yeah, well done.
So I've had these for 20 years. They're Sony MDRs. Um, the benefit about that is I know my speakers. I listen to the same thing for forever now.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I would tell anyone getting into this, or sitting with Matt's got a great speaker assortment there, where they see some NS10s and some Adams and a couple other things that the speaker itself doesn't make you a good mixer. It's the time you sit in front of them and how well you know how they're supposed to sound.
True that.
Here, here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate that. Obviously, once again, all the links are in the description below, as it were. Sorry, I'm getting really tired. I've got to get up at 4 a.m. and it's nearly midnight over here, so I'm starting to really flag. So my apologies if I'm stumbling and all the rest of it. But yeah, we're ploughing through. We're nearly there. So Matt, obviously, we've just discussed everything about you. But what's your current project or your next project that you're working on, and what's the future?
So I'm recording some acoustic in about an hour. I have a gig on drums this Saturday, and I have a handful of clients who are like, man, they're once things calm down with COVID, they have albums written and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to the vaccine getting out and people getting healthy and the numbers going down and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
And I love doing remote mixing. So if anybody wants to tap me to mix remotely, hit me up.
Yeah,
because right now the studio has been mostly dark.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully some more Mix Off Mondays will help with that, Matt. So like I say, we'll definitely get you back on, and thank you ever so much for coming on board and yeah, being a part of it, man. It's been a real pleasure to have you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries, my pleasure. Frankie Doodles, the
Yep.
bus thrower under her.
Yeah.
But we won, so I'll forgive you. It's all good. Yeah, what's currently? Oh yeah, well, you've just finished your fader installation thing on your desk, haven't you? We're getting
Yeah, so
right
I had a
geeky.
bit of downtime in the studio, and off my day job as well. So I took a bit of time. I'll see if I can get this working. I'll get my camera off. Sorry,
We
let's
did
see my
rehearse
face.
this, ladies and gents.
There you go. So
Completely
yeah,
off
pop
the cuff.
that little fader into my desk. Hopefully you can see that.
Yeah,
Yep.
nice.
Good. And yeah, it's there it goes. So that's what I've been up to. Took a little bit of time and was a little bit nerve-wracking because I built this desk a couple of years ago, and that took enough work. And then I had to drill a hole into it. So yeah, a bit nerve-wracking, but got it up and running, and waiting to use it now. Yeah, had some mastering projects, but they don't really need too many fader rides. So just itching to automate properly
Yeah,
rather than with the mouse. So yeah.
no, very cool. And anything else you got going on at the moment? I know you just had an interview with Addy, haven't you, yourself? So
Oh yeah. So that just came out today. That was sort of about because I teach music technology, kind of the process of teaching, really.
Yeah.
This particular subject. So yeah, that's out on Addy's channel.
I'll stick
Yeah,
a link
apart
for
from
that as well down below at some point. Like I say, all the other links will get added post show, but yeah, I will put a link to that because it's well worth a watch. It's some really insightful bits you come up with there, and
thanks, man.
yeah, great tips. Yeah,
Just I just ramble, and occasionally something comes out that.
Well, it was a stroke of
sounds like
genius if that's the case. You had a muse on your shoulder at the time because it was,
Um,
yeah, great.
Yeah, so yeah, just got a couple of mastering projects to work on this week, and yeah, then back to work.
Yeah, back to the grind. But yeah, so obviously, where can people find you? Should they want to?
So yeah, I'm on my website, frankleonardwalker.com, and all the socials / Frank Leonard Walker. Yeah, links are in the description, aren't they?
Yep.
Easier, just click on them.
Exactly that. Exactly that. Nice one, Frank. Thank you very much. And John, star of the show. Thank you ever so much, sir. Real pleasure once again. Are you still there, or have you gone?
I'm still there.
Oh, it's cool,
Thank you.
cool. Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, honestly, really insightful comments, really helpful comments. Great constructive feedback. Love the band. Absolutely love the band. I love the sound.
Thank you.
I love the track. And yeah, man, just I wish you all the best, and I hope we stay in touch, and I hope there'll be a nice working relationship between any one of us and yourself going forward, sir. So thank you ever so much
Absolutely. Thank you.
for giving us your time, man. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Cool.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
So I think the only other thing I need to mention is so we haven't got any other artists present at the moment. So we are crying out for them. So if you are an artist, please get in touch with us on info@marleraudio.com. But I think for the time being, we're going to have a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks. And I think we're going to attempt to do a mix-off Monday for the current Produce Like a Pro mix-off competition. I need to double check we're allowed to do that first. But if we are allowed to do it, I'm thinking of maybe a more relaxed setting with the three of us, plus another couple of guests from the Plap community. So I'll be getting in touch with some peoples. And then maybe we can all present our version of the mix for the competition and discuss it. And hopefully it's before the deadline so that we can help promote it a bit better and get some more artists and more people involved in having a go at it. Why not? So that's my kind of thought process on that at the moment. But like I say, in the meantime, if you are an artist and you are interested, like I say, there's links in the description below for all of the artists. So if you want to go and check it out and flesh it out with the artists to make sure it's all kosher and all the rest of it and see how they were treated and everything else to make sure they're definitely happy, then you can do. And then you can get in touch with us and have a conversation. We can go from there. Once again, if you want to be a guest engineer on the show and you'd like to be featured and be interviewed, then please, once again, get in touch and we'll try and sort something out. And yeah, that's kind of it. And in terms of me, if you want me to mix and master anything, I'm at marleraudio.com. I'm on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spotify. No, I'm not on Spotify. I'm lying there. So yeah, all of them. Basically, just search Marler Audio, you'll find me, and it's also in the links in the description below. So thank you once again, everybody, for tuning in. Apologies for me flagging towards the end there. I'm really I need my bed. And yeah, we'll see you for the next Mix Off Monday. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, man.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.